We got ourselves more TBATE content. This is called Bad Adaptations from Mr. Probably Pretentious. And yeah, the title honestly speaks for itself. If you have seen the anime, you know what's going on. Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? Imagine
PNG luck, baby. I love it. I love it. Like, literally nothing is happening, right? They shake the camera around. You see these, like, you know, what's this called? Like velocity lines, speed lines, impact lines. But basically, they're basically doing everything but animating to give the illusion of animation happening. Like, look at this shit. How the fuck? Like, nothing is actually happening, right? But see? The dad is staying still while this guy is being dragged in like fucking Microsoft Paint. But you have these like wind lines happening on the sides to again give the illusion of movement.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? Imagine this. A fictional work you love is getting adapted into an anime. This work can be a manga, it can be a manhwa, it can be a light novel for the four of you who actually read those. It can even be whatever the the beginning after the end is. It's not a manhwa, by the way, it's not Korean. Point is, a work you love is finally getting adapted. That's exciting, right? At last, the masses.
It actually isn't a manhwa. It is and it isn't. Because like it's done by a Korean person, but just because it's done by a Korean person doesn't mean it's a manhwa. It needs to be like be done in Korea and like I guess published into Korean like platforms. It's weird because it's like a webtoon. Turtleme is Korean, but he lives in America and the content is being published on Tapas. What the fuck do we even call it? Webtoon is also adjacent to manhwa because Webtoon is a literal website, a platform that manhwa is published on. Anyways, it doesn't really matter.
Those peasants whose opinions matter less than yours will get a taste of what you have been raving about for
Excuse me? Peasants?
finally getting adapted. That's exciting, right? At last, the masses, those peasants whose opinions matter less than yours, will get a taste of what you have been raving about for months and months.
That's right. Source material readers have a higher IQ than anime onlys. This is a fact.
You aren't worried about the adaptation not looking good. The source material is immensely popular and has a large fan base. There's no way the anime won't take advantage of that, right?
Surely Crunchyroll and Tapas and Studio 8cat won't take Turtleme for a ride, right? Remember when we were dooming about Sakamoto's days last season? That was over-exaggerated. Yeah, the Boiled versus Sakamoto fight was pretty shitty, not gonna lie. And the adaptation definitely was mediocre compared to what people wanted. But like, you compare this shit to TBATE? No. This is where the crying and the complaints and the quote-unquote criticisms actually do matter. Like, it is justified.
Surely the anime won't mess it up, right? Right? And then Blue Lock happened. Anime adaptations being mediocre.
And honestly, Blue Lock, again, yeah, it's garbage animation, but because of the direction of the story was so hype, and because they pulled up for a Sakuga Fest near the end when it mattered, everyone kind of forgets about it and will let it pass. And that's the thing that really fucks me, man. That, again, the analogy is 8-bit Studios decided to skip all the lectures and labs, homeworks, midterms, who cares? Showed up for the final exam, aced it, and said, fuck you, you're gonna eat it up. And the masses ate it up. That's not the case with Tower of God, though. Tower of God was the same situation, same season airing, where the source material with the arc being covered was also just as hype. Or that's what the fans say. You know, workshop battle hype, man. Just trust me, man. But because the Answer Studio had no understanding of the direction of the story, right? It's not enough that the source material story is good. It needs to be directed well. And if that vision isn't there, it's going to be garbage and no one watches it. That's why Blue Lock, quote unquote, succeeded while Tower of God didn't, despite both being ass animations.
Happened. Anime adaptations being mediocre is an extremely frequent occurrence. I'm talking multiple times each season frequent.
Yep.
And for a medium that predominantly consists of adaptations, that's a massive fucking problem. There are so many shows out there that do the absolute bare minimum. All these shows do is convert PDFs and JPEGs into
Meraka. Yo, this shit got renewed for season 2, by the way. It did.
MP4 files, or to PNGs in case of TBATE and Blue Lock. They don't have anything to offer outside of simply existing, but we are getting ahead of ourselves. Let's take a step back, let's try to understand what a bad adaptation truly is, and by extension, let's define what a good adaptation is.
Okay.
Why? Because trust me, there's a lot of nuance to this whole thing.
Sure,
the goal
educate
of this
me.
video isn't to blindly dunk on shows like TBATE and Sakamoto Days and throw
Oh, come on. That's what I'm here to do.
a few surface level insults at them. There's a pretentious in my channel name, not a reviews. It's very easy
fine.
for us fans to look at an adaptation at face value, quite literally. The way a show looks and sounds is often the only metric people look at. And while yes, production value is an important part of an adaptation, it's far from the only one. If I were to use an unnecessary food-based analogy here, I won't of course, but if I had to, I'd say something like, if an adaptation is a pizza, production value is the cheese, very important, yes, but not the only metric that matters.
Sure.
In my opinion, the following 4 factors collectively decide whether or not an adaptation is good. Keep in mind, these only apply to the adaptation component of a show, not the overall quality. A great show can be a terrible adaptation and vice versa. The 4 factors are production value, faithfulness of the visuals, faithfulness of the story, and pacing.
Okay, hold up, go back.
Production value, faithfulness of the visuals, faithfulness of the story, and pacing.
Pacing, story, visuals. Art style, right? Overall art direction, right? The story I think is so important. I think that one of the most important things is the direction of the story. Because like, recently we've watched Mail Order Isekai. As well as Villainous OG-san. And I'm not here to dunk on Villainous OG-san, but I'm trying to give you an example where they're like inverses of each other. One anime is so well made, Villainous OG-san, but the story just doesn't really align with me. Yet Mail Order Isekai, the one where, you know, that near 40-year-old guy using Amazon Prime to fuck all the bitches, bro, the production value, the art style, it's garbage. But because the direction of the story is so good, I'm enjoying it more. So it's a very interesting scenario where sometimes good-looking animes doesn't mean it's gonna be better. Quite often, shitty-looking animes, if the story aligns with your interests, may be more entertaining.
Let's get the obvious one out of the way first, production value. It refers to any aspect of a show that's not the story. This includes animation quality, direction, music, and everything in between.
That's right.
It's also the aspect I love obsessing over the most. I won't talk much about this component here because truth be told, it is very simple, and it's the one you guys know a lot about already.
I don't know if it's simple, to be honest. Production value is such a wide, encompassing topic. Right? There is like overall, when you talk about production value, people probably think animation, right? How it moves, the art style, the voice acting, the soundtracks, right? All of these things encompasses into, I guess, what's called production value. And man, I think most people watching anime genuinely have no clue what they're even looking at. Like they have some idea of why some scenes look better, right? Like those Sakuga moments, but they don't really know why it looks better. There's so many like techniques and skills involved that I'm trying to like define and identify. Slowly, my third eye is awakening, but it's still in the early phases.
High production value good, low production value bad, it's not rocket science. I have covered this topic in detail before, by the way. I recommend checking this video out if you want to hear me nerd out and yap about, explore in granular detail the topic of production value. Long story short, strong animation and drawings help an anime tell its story in a more optimal manner. Strong direction makes a show more visually engaging and thematically richer, and good music use can enhance a scene to unparalleled heights. Again, high production value good, low production value bad.
Easy.
The second factor is faithfulness of the visuals, and you might think it's simple too, right? It's just like the previous aspect, more faithful good, less faithful bad. No, if you think that, you're part of the problem. The problem of course being the fact that most adaptations tend to be dog shit. To quote myself from a few years back, there's nothing more boring than an anime that uses the manga as a storyboard. A manga and an anime are two completely different works of art, and as such, there's no reason why one should look like the other.
So like the art style should be different, or is he basically making that comparison with Medaka where people are just basically taking a one-to-one from the manga panels and doing the least with it.
I hope that's not a controversial thing to say. By the way, I'll focus more on manga adaptations here because manga is the most visual source material medium out there. The way most manga adaptations, especially the lackluster ones, work is by taking a page from the manga and doing absolutely nothing
That's exactly what I just said.
with it. Just recreating the shots as is with some movement here and there. That's the norm. And I think it's fucking stupid. I cannot stress.
It's very lazy. Very efficient though, right? If they're trying to do the least with it, like an anime should take inspiration from the manga, have a different vision in mind, and highlight it beyond what it is. For example, ReZero, Kurgan versus Garfield, or any of ReZero content, to be honest, right? Because now, when you are adapting a light novel and not a manga, the light novel, yes, there is art, but it's not like everything is art. You know what I mean? It's a lot of dialogue with some key visuals. And when you're adapting a light novel, now the animators must like actually think beyond just tracing the manga panels and interpret it into their own way and animate, right? So I guess light novel adaptations then by default would be better in this category compared to animes that's like adapting the manga.
This enough. One-to-one adaptations annoy the out of me. You know those social media posts you occasionally come across, the ones with captions along the lines of Studio XYZ really snapped with this scene and it's just an anime recreating a manga panel? Yeah, those make my blood boil. Oh look, they just copied a short composition from the manga. They are doing justice to the source material. Off.
They're
That's
being
the level
faithful.
we are at. Shows are praised for being less creative. Think about it for a second.
You know what? Super based. He's got a point, bro. You should be upset. You shouldn't be impressed just because it looks like one-to-one from the manga.
And the less creative a show is, the more it's applauded. It's absurd. Here's my 2 cents on the subject. I don't want my anime to be the exact same thing as the manga. Regardless of how well paneled and illustrated the manga is, I would much rather have the anime do something different, even if the something different
Fair.
is not as good. Why?
True.
Because at least it's different. But hey, aren't we talking about adaptations in this video? Even if I don't like
Well, I think there is a difference between comparing an anime and a manga or a manhwa, like a specific frame, versus doing nothing with it, right? Like, giving Sung Jin Woo's iconic little Thai ripoff moment at the end of season 2 and having that anime scene and the manga scene, that's not a bad thing. It's just that if that's the only thing you're doing in the anime, that's a bad thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you should be faithful. You should, you know, have these key moments, these key impact moments that existed in the manga be existing in the anime. But don't just do a fucking PNG of it, right? Show it and do something more with it.
one-to-one recreations. Aren't they good from an adaptation POV? No, at least I don't think so. You see, manga will always be limited in what it can visualize. At their respective bests, a medium that's restricted to stationary panels can never visually outdo a medium that actually moves.
That is just facts though. That's literally physics, right? Like well, people meme about how, you know, the One Punch Man manga is better animated than, you know, the actual anime, but that is still objectively a lie. You know what I mean? Like, the art style is way better, but like animation, it's literally moving. Like you can't argue against that.
Therefore, by lifting short compositions from the more limited manga, an anime is automatically killing its potential.
There is a TBATE subreddit thread that I want to read. It's called like the webcomic of TBATE has more animations than the anime itself. I wonder what that's about. But again, like, if things are moving, then it should be impossible that an anime, you know, is inferior to the manga. It's just like, that's what the animation is.
It's not being as good as it can be. Also, we can't just assume that a manga is perfect. There are plenty of major titles out there with less than elegant paneling and artwork. When adapting works like these, the anime team can increase the technical proficiency and by doing so, get the message of the manga across better than the manga itself. That's very much possible. Mob Psycho, for example, it's one of the most visually impressive TV shows ever, and it retains that poorly drawn aesthetic of its source. Huge air quotes around poorly drawn, by the way. Sadly, stuff like that.
It is it not poorly drawn? Everything has a style. I feel like One Punch Man, the author, one who also, you know, made Mob Psycho, I don't think that's honestly a hot take. He was an amateur at drawing, right? He just had a vision with it, and that's why, you know, Murata Yusuke came along and took his webcomic and then made it into a manga with way better, you know, drawings.
That rarely happens, and that's not
It's definitely a style, right? But you can't just can you just justify like amateur low skilled drawings and call it an aesthetic style of vibe? Does that make sense? I don't know. Then again, is it bad is it bad drawing either? I don't fucking know. I don't have the education to really say that.
a good thing. Here's how I'll put it. Blatantly refusing to visualize a story better by making use of the more versatile medium of animation makes a show a bad adaptation, in my opinion. Keep in mind, the goal of an adaptation is to tell the same story as its source material, it's not to recreate it as is. Some of the best adaptations out there take creative liberties with the visuals. Those immensely cool hyperdynamic ODM gear shots from early Attack on Titan were obviously a significant upgrade from their corresponding
Exactly, right? If a different studio like the Answer Studio, or let's say Studio 8cat or 8-bit Studio, you know, they did this, it would look just like this, and you would have these lines that you see in TBATE to give the illusion of movement. But notice how they interpret these, add their own anime only scenes, and provide way more. That's what an anime should be.
manga panels. The mind-melting audiovisual experience that was Sukuna vs. Mahoraga heavily expanded upon the contents of the manga. Fights from the recent solo leveling anime are a lot more diverse structurally than their
That's
manga
right.
counterparts. Those haunting rumbling scenes from the penultimate AOT episode were largely anime only, the list goes on. Anime is at its best when the team looks at the source material as nothing more than the starting point, a platform to build on. Also,
Yes.
why would you want an anime to look the same as the manga? It doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want the same?
When some people say that, they just mean like their iconic keyframes in the manga is shown in the anime, right? Like just to give you an example again, Solo Leveling Season 2, finale Jinwoo, right? There's like this like image here, right? Right over here. Here it is, right? Where is this? Everyone is just nutting over Jinwoo looking like this. But here. Like this is straight up from the webtoon, right? This frame is from the webtoon. And that's what people are saying when they're saying like I want the anime to look like the manga. They're not saying give me still frames, but they're saying please include the iconic moments as an homage to what the manga or the source material is. But don't just end there. Give more afterwards, right? That's what they're saying. They're not saying just give me a manga trace over.
Same thing twice. The manga still exists, just look at it instead. Let the anime be its own unique thing. This also applies to the artistic side of things. Think of it this way, a mangaka might be great at what he does, but the anime is made by a completely different team of artists, and these people will not have the same artistic vision as the mangaka. Of
True.
course, again, they are different people. Consequently, the team has two choices. One, look at the manga as nothing more than reference and create the anime based on their own creative ideas, and two, simply imitate the mangaka's vision. I don't know about you, but I'd much rather have the former. Wink wink Chainsaw Man. Taking artistic cues from the manga and recreating an iconic panel or two is fine, but basing the entire visual
Exactly what he said there, right? He understands, right? Taking an iconic manga frame and giving it love is perfectly fine. But you need to do more than that. You can't just have that.
An iconic panel or two is fine, but basing the entire visual identity of an anime solely on the manga is stupid and counterproductive,
True.
in my opinion. In fact, I'd go as far as to say I prefer adaptations that look radically different. I wish we got more of those. Overall, when it comes to visuals, different is usually a positive adjective. The third factor is faithfulness of the story, and this one should be a no-brainer, right? Surely the story of all things should be faithful, right? Not
Should.
exactly, in my opinion. I think story-based changes can be a good thing, and that might sound confusing.
There are definitely moments where it is better to change it. For example, in Solo Leveling, a lot of people were complaining that Goto Ryuji versus Sung Jin-woo was not done the way that it was done in the manhwa. People were complaining that Goto was supposed to have a mind break moment, that he's supposed to be intimidated and terrified of Jin-woo. That's what the manhwa did. But the anime decided to hold off on that. Why? Because they thought, in my opinion, right? Why should we immediately throw this guy under the bus? Yeah, he's gonna become fodder later on. But so is Beru. So is all these other villains. So in order to like hype up these new rivals and antagonists coming in, let's kind of like delay that later. And that was a difference in the manga, in the webcomics, the manhwa versus the anime. And I think that was pretty smart to do. There are definitely good ways that an anime can change the direction of the story and maybe even make it better. Bro, what is this buffer? Bro, what is this buffer? YouTube has been so fucking slow for me recently. What's going on?
Confusing, didn't I say the goal of an adaptation is to tell the same story as its source? And by that logic, shouldn't strict faithfulness of the story be a good thing? A change in story might make a show better in a vacuum, but won't it make an adaptation worse? After all, adaptation isn't about the overall quality of a show, it's about the way a source material is translated and handled by the anime. Isn't a change in story counterproductive to that goal? Not exactly. You see, when I say stuff like change and lack of faithfulness, I'm referring not to a major overhaul. Instead, I'm referring to minor alterations, maybe an additional line here or a small omission there.
Exactly. Don't change the entire story. It's just like, maybe there is something different we can move around. Like a little piece, right? The Go to Ryuji example is, I think, perfect example. It's just a minor thing that you moved around to kind of like say, in hindsight, maybe this was better.
Maybe a small amount of scene rearrangements, that stuff. The idea is to not be overly faithful and make minor changes here and there in an effort to make the story more focused and the storytelling more optimal. You're still telling the same story, you're just telling it better. Demon Slayer is a fantastic example of this phenomena in action. The most recent season of it adapted a tiny arc from the manga, meaning most of the anime was filler and that.
Yeah, like the Tanjiro and fucking Muichiro. 20 airplanes. And they counted to 20, I think. The Hashira only moments were pretty good. The stuff with Sanemi. Like, Sanemi moments was really good, but there's also a lot of anime only moments where I'm like, bro, they are really milking it. But I appreciated they did that, because we still got another season of Demon Slayer. And I hope to God that the Infinity Castle are coming up, the movies, will also be milked in separate anime season. Please do it.
That's the best thing about it, in my opinion. The additional stuff Ufotable added helped build the calm before the storm atmosphere the show needed. It fleshed the characters out more. It made the product more compelling to watch.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer is filled with changes like these. The team deciding to remove a lengthy explanation of Uzui's ability right smack in the middle of his intense fight against Gyutaro. Them adding an anime original Infinite Castle scene near the start of season 4 to build intrigue. The list goes on.
Oh, that was anime only? That was actually so hype.
Again, no source material out there is perfect. An anime with the power of hindsight can alter stuff in a manner that makes the story better, all while preserving the original narrative. Here's another example. The final episode of Attack on Titan, or more specifically, the final conversation between Armin and Eren, was heavily I prefer.
Should I watch this part? I still haven't finished Attack on Titan. I still haven't finished Attack on Titan, by the way.
Slippery slope, it is very easy to f up an adaptation with these minor changes. An example I love revisiting is the first season of Classroom of the Elite. The final
we're gonna skip it. Let's keep going.
Scene of the final episode.
By the way, hit me up if you want to do Attack on Titan reactions. I have seen some of it. I do definitely know the secrets here and there, right? Like, I've seen season 2. I think on top of the wall, the Reiner shit, that shit blew my fucking mind. But I haven't finished the story. So I've been holding off. I've been holding off an Attack on Titan to be like, yo, there's potential that we could just rerun this shit. So like, anyways, a different time. That's a different time.
Room of the Elite, the final scene of the final episode, the People Are Tools scene. It completely annihilated the credibility of this show amongst audiences with a mental age of over 10. It turned what could have been an extremely unique character drama centered around a compelling protagonist. That's what the light novel is.
Wait! I thought it was cool. I thought that scene was, edgy. Anakoji basically, Horikita Suzune is like gushing to Anakoji saying, wow, like, thanks, man. You really helped me. Like, you goated, man. Maybe we could be friends. And Anakoji's like, not you, not Horikita, you know, not Kushida, not Koenji, not Ryu, and not anybody. You're all tools to me. I thought that shit was sick. Genuinely. It was just so edgy and showed a side of the cold, ruthless ruler of the game in Ayano Koji. But mental age at 10. Yeah, we're cooked, guys. We're caught.
Final episode, the people are tools scene. It completely annihilated the credibility of this show amongst.
But why? Ayano Koji does believe people are tools. That is not like contradicting his philosophy. At this point of the story, that's how he believes. Is it not a great anime only super edgy? It is absolutely edgy. Oh my god. Who talks like that? But it's an anime, bro. I thought it was epic. I thought it was appropriate.
Audiences with a mental age of over 10. It turned what could have been an extremely unique character drama centered around a compelling protagonist. That's what the light novel is, into a show that's loved exclusively by kids with stunted emotional development.
That's us, bro. Whoops, you got me.
The scene, however, wasn't anime only. Ayano Koji said those exact words in the novel. The difference was the context. In the novel, he said those things while the special exam was still ongoing. Winning seemed to refer to the exam, and tools seemed to refer to his teammates. A bit cheesy, yes, but sensible for who he is. The anime, however, in an effort to end on a cliffhanger, changed the sequence of events such that this scene took place after the exam, which made it so much more childish and edgy. These were all minor changes.
I kind of see what he's saying. So again, it's not contradicting Ayano Koji's character. He does see people as tools. That's absolutely true. But it's in the context of the game. He's playing a game of chess and he's ruling the board. But the anime scene, the context there was aimed at his friends. You know, the game is over. Now we're celebrating. And Sigma Koji is looking dead straight at Suzune and saying, not you, not Kushida, not maybe Manabu. Manabu kind of sick, bro. But basically all of you tools. I don't care. So yeah, I kind of see what he's saying. I get it. I get it.
What about major ones? Well, they usually tend to be bad.
But honestly, I loved it. I fucking loved that scene. Because it was like, bro, what the hell? Like, we did it. We're celebrating. Everyone's having fun. Suzune is opening up. And Koji ends the season by saying, I have no friends. Fuck every one of you. You're tools to me. And I was like, damn. Based? That's me for real. I am Ayano Koji for real. And I was like, that scene, it's super edgy. I personally loved it. Am I emotionally stunted? I mean, hey, you see my commentary and reactions. I think you can basically answer for yourself, right? I don't have to justify myself. But to me, that scene was so edgy and over the top that I was like, fuck yeah. Let's go, King.
More significant a change is, the more it causes the adaptation to stray away from the original story.
Yeah, that's right. I have no enemies in Vinland Saga. Lame. Boring. Oh, Vinland Saga, you think you're so smart, you think you're so enlightened, you have no enemies? Fuck you. You're all tools to me. I only have tools. I have no friends. Ayano Koji. Let's go.
Which is just bad adaptation 101. Tokyo Ghoul Route A, for example, it was anime only and it sucked.
Oh yeah, I hear a lot of complaints about this scene. Like apparently at the end of Tokyo Ghoul, I don't know what the hell's going on, but he just kept walking. And at the end of SAO Season 1, when, half of Season 1, the first part, Aincrad arc ended, you remember how Kirito also walked out of the hospital? He kept walking. We were memeing about that.
For example, it was anime only and it sucked. Even if it was good in a vacuum, it wasn't. It very much wasn't, trust me. But even if it was, it would still be bad from an adaptation POV. The good kind of changes are the ones that conserve the original narrative and message, all while improving the quality of storytelling. Any change that causes a show to move away from the original story is a bad change.
Take the intent of the source material. And when you're going to do an anime-only scene and do it, you can't divert from the vision they had. You need to enhance it. The changes you do must enhance the original intent and the vision of what the source material was trying to do. Don't try to do your own specific take on it and have Anakoji, being mean to friends when he was simply, treating the game as a chessboard.
At least adaptation-wise. The final aspect that determines the goodness of an adaptation is pacing, and it too is immensely important.
Absolutely. And pacing, bro, specifically for anime reactions on YouTube, matters so much. And at the end of the day, it may not matter as much for like an overall anime project, but bro, holy shit. When the pacing is bad and there are episodes which nothing happens and no one watches, the analytics, holy shit, they tank. And no one cares about it, and I don't even blame them. Why would you watch an episode of nothing fucking happening when they're just fucking stalling and padding, right? So it's just like, it's like one of those episodes that I'm like, god damn it, here we go.
A show might feature high production values, it might feature the right kind of changes, but things can still go to shit if the pacing is out of whack.
True.
The God of High School, for example, fantastic show in terms of quality, but someone thought adapting 100+ chapters in
It's good quality? Really? So the complaints of God of High School is the pacing, the story, it bombed, but the fight scenes were good.
13 episodes was a good idea. It wasn't. That same critique applies to titles like The Promised Neverland season
114 chapters and 12 episodes? That's pretty impressive. Is that better or worse than Classroom of the Elite adaptation from the light novel?
Season 2 and Fate Heaven's Feel. The latter is one of my favorite things ever visually, but god is the pacing awful. To put it in perspective, Heaven's Feel as a route is longer than Unlimited Blade Works, but the latter needed 24 episodes while the former only got 3 movies or roughly 9 episodes. The consequence? A story that felt haphazard and confusing, crucial scenes being cut and mandatory explanations being presented in the form of overwhelming expositions. Moral of the story? Good pacing is an important part of an adaptation's quality. There is no universal way of pacing an anime, it depends on the show and the genre in question. A slice of life might benefit from a slowed down pacing, same with a show that's too heavy-handed with its action.
Yeah, like the Moe Blob Slime 300 Years anime, right? It's pretty slow paced, but we're just kind of chilling and vibing.
On the other hand, a long-running shonen might require a faster, more compact presentation.
One Piece?
About the topic, pacing is more important in an anime than any other medium out there, at least in terms of scene-by-scene progression. Think about it, while reading a manga or a light novel, your own reading speed comes into play. You can rush through the chapters or take your time and really absorb each panel and
Exactly, and the manga, for the most part, well, some of them, I guess, are already completed, right? So I guess the example that I was going to make of like, oh, you have to wait each week for an anime to come out, and if the pacing is bad, you're fucked. I mean, you could be binge watching older animes too. It shouldn't really matter there, but yeah. Unless you do 2x speed on anime, which God forbid you do that. I honestly think that if you watch anime at 2x speed, dude, that's a cardinal sin. People crucify people putting pineapple on pizza. Nah. People who watch anime in 2x speed, I genuinely think that you... Something is wrong here, man. Something is wrong here, man. Now, it depends on which anime, right? The Giga take of... Listen, Giga's trying to treat this as a job, and he's got a lot of anime to cover, and the 2x speed claim... Giga only watches the shitty isekais at 2x speed, and you know what? I don't really blame him. Like, TBATE, for example. If you just wanted to cover the anime to kind of do a review and video about it, I don't think watching, let's say TBATE or even the Unaware Atelier Master, right? All these shitty dungeon fantasy isekai shows, that's like bottom of the barrel, like 5 to 6 out of 10, like Failure Frame, for example, Newgate. If you watch that 2x speed, I wouldn't blame you. I honestly wouldn't. Honestly, it might be better use of your time. But like if you're doing 2x speed on, let's say, like Unlimited Blade Works, Fate, or some of the other great animes, happening this season, like what the fuck's wrong with you?
An anime, however, decides the rate of progression for you. That is, of course, unless you are one of those low-life, scum-sucking morons who watch anime sped up. Sidebar, if you watch anime at anything other than the original speed, you need to be flogged in public.
Yes, absolutely. Agreed. Thank you for bringing that up. We need to get the guillotine out, bro. we need to get the fucking we need to get the Inquisitors coming out, bro. Like to some fucking orb shit, like treating people that does that like heretics.
Point is, anime has a definite length, and as such, it is particularly important for it to pace things with the audience in mind. I'll go back to that Demon Slayer example. The Swordsmith Village arc slowed things down to a crawl, and I think that was brilliant. The slower pacing did all of the things I said it did. I don't remember the list. Here's another example. The Days with My Stepsister light novel.
This fucking anime, bro. The pacing of them just spending 30 seconds just fucking eating in silence. Wow. Peak animation, man. Wow. Setting the tone and vibes in the atmosphere, sure, bro.
Featured a slow, methodical pace. It was part of the charm. And I can absolutely see why a
part of the charm, he says, bro. Them just fucking having a dude walk in, getting home, untie his shoes, slowly walk through, taking like 30 seconds to walk to the kitchen, bro. Is that charming? It's kind of egregious at times what they're doing. I'm like, whatever.
A production team might want to speed things up, but thankfully director Sota Ueno did not. The Days with My Stepsister anime, one of the best directed shows in recent memory by the way, featured the same slow pacing as its source material, and that's the reason why it was so good.
I will give Freerun though the I will put Freerun up here. You know how my rage bait take is, you monkeys glaze Freerun saying, wow, the camera is looking at the sky and they're just like walking through the forest and wow. And you call this peak animation. I call that filler. I call that filler watch. No. I think what Freerun did there, it does. That's the charm. It's definitely a slow-paced, chill, just adventure journey vibe. Days of My Stepsister, from what I remember, it felt more like just stalling and padding watch time, man.
That and the direction. Long story short, a good adaptation needs perfect pacing. If the pacing is too slow, the anime might feel boring. If the pacing is too fast, it might come off as cheap and unremarkable. The team needs to find the middle ground. And that's all there is to an adaptation, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
As you hopefully realize by now, there's a lot more to it than simply copying the source and making it look pretty. Justice is truly done to a source material, not when it's copied as is, but instead when it's enhanced and presented in the most optimal manner possible. And that should just about do it. Like the video.
And that's it. And by this point, you should have realized that you have all been baited with the TBATE thumbnail and a title that basically didn't talk about TBATE at all. But it's okay, I'll give it to you at the end. What did we learn about this video? There are 4 parameters of interest, right? There are 4 variables, the toppings on the pizza per se, that, you know, makes up an anime. And what is that? You have production value, which is voice acting, soundtrack, animation, and so on, right? Then you have the overall faithfulness of art style, the visual aesthetics, the faithfulness of the story, and the pacing. How does TBATE fall in line with this? Well, the art style, is it being faithful? I guess. But you need to do more than that, right? It's not enough to have keyframes being shown. Because if all you're doing is showing the keyframes and not doing anything beyond that, you're just wasting everyone's time. So it fails on that front. What about the story, the direction? I don't know the source material of TBATE story, but to me as an anime only, I'm actually enjoying the development of Arthur as he sees this new world, you know, from the lens of a child who has loving family compared to King Gray, who had nothing like that. And apparently there were anime-only scenes in the episodes that, you know, added more of that. More King Gray specific anime-only moments to highlight what kind of person he is. A brutal, ruthless dictator who has no friends, no nothing, you know, and to basically learn about love and fulfillment. So in that context, I think the story is pretty good. The direction of the story is pretty good. The pacing? It's alright, I guess. I think the most recent episode, episode 3, was kind of really fast. The Sylvia stuff, I had a hard time actually getting emotional about it because, you know, it's just like, I don't know, I only met you for like one time and you're already dying. So we have decent pacing, decent story, Garbage fucking anime. Let's say faithfulness to the visuals, because all you're doing is just fucking overlaying this, and garbage production value, right? I will give the. I do think that the voice acting and the soundtrack is fine. If you actually think that the voice acting and soundtrack of this anime is bad, I think you're being way too biased. Voice acting for pretty much every anime, I've never had an issue with it. Like the competency for the base, like even like the worst of the worst voice actor in the animation industry, because of how elite the competition is and the environment that like procures talents, dude, the baseline competency of voice acting is, I think, fantastic. And soundtrack, I'm digging the medieval, vibes of it. But that's not enough to kind of, carry this story. So far, TBATE is a horrendous adaptation. And that's pretty much it. Please go check out Probably Pretentious' channel. Here's a link to the video. Go give it a like if you did. Hopefully you learned something. See you next time.